Rosslyn, British Columbia. She's covering It Takes Two to Tango. Please put your hands together for Kelsey Scott.
Do you know what the clicker is?
What?
The clicker?
I don't know how
It
to
just
work
goes
it.
between me? Okay.
There's a new wind blowing like I've never known. I'm breathing deeper than I've ever done, and it sure feels good.
So I ask, what is a principle? Principle is defined as a fundamental truth or proposition that serves as the foundation for a system of belief or behavior. Further, Stevenson states, the principle of a science are its governing laws. These may be the fundamental truths upon which it is founded, or the governing rules or conduct of operation. So with that, what is the fundamental truth of chiropractic? And to determine that, we must look at our principles. And not one of them, not two of them, all 33 of them. So tonight, we're going to dive into the number one principle, the major premise. And before we do that, I then ask again, what is a premise? So the premise is an assertion or proposition which forms the basis for a work or theory. So seeing as most of us here are either chiropractic students or chiropractors, it seems appropriate to really understand what is the basis of our work. What is that we do? A universal intelligence is in all matter and continuously gives to it all its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. And that is the major premise of chiropractic. So, but okay, you can read that, you can say that, but what does it really mean? And in the end, how does that govern what we do as chiropractors? So in the next 5 to 6 minutes, I'm going to try to take you on a journey of scientific law to try to better understand the philosophical discussion of universal intelligence. And so with that, I'm going to dissect the dance that occurs between philosophy and science. And by doing that, look at the study of life and the study of natural law. So science and philosophy. Philosophy explains the why, and science tells us what it is. In order for me to grasp the bigness of the major premise, I really needed to look at the properties of matter, and that led me to looking at what an atom is in the structure of an atom. So an atom is the smallest unit of an element which still contains the characteristics of that element. So in general, it is the basic building block that forms all matter that makes up everyday objects, from the chairs that you guys are sitting on, to the camera in the back, to this stage that I'm walking on, to most importantly, the cells in all of our bodies which create life. So the four main sciences that I then looked at to better understand the breakdown of an atom are biology, chemistry, physics, and math. So how do those play into it? Biology. In general, that's the study of life. And we just looked at that life is made up of matter. So then chemistry. Chemistry identifies the substances in which matter is composed. Physics explains the properties of matter in the structure of an atom. And finally, math defines the natural laws which govern atomic structures. So while I was looking at all these four fields of sciences, I was able to determine that science can explain the atomic structure to a certain point. But then even science admits that there is a part that it cannot define. So first off, let's look at what we do know. So just on a very superficial level, the atom is made up of electrons, neutrons, and protons. In the middle, the nucleus, are the protons and neutrons, and all around the outside, the electrons are somewhere. So there's two models here. The Bohr model was first thought that you can find the electrons in one orbit, and that they are given just one number, they're given a discrete value. But then, through quantum mechanics, in the quantum mechanic model, it was determined that you can't actually know that exact location of the electron. And because they're actually in an electron cloud. And kind of what that means is that the location is actually determined on probability rather than certainty. So the location of an electron is a mathematical probability function which at best tells us the most likely location of that electron, but it cannot tell us the definite location. And that right there is called the uncertainty principle, which states that momentum and position of a particle cannot be both precisely determined at the same time. So, okay, what does that mean? Does that mean I can't explain universal intelligence? That sucks. No, it doesn't. And it was when I came to this realization, I was like, wow, I think I get this. I have been trying to define a premise which is infinite in nature and trying to make it a finite, tangible entity. Going back to Stevenson. Matter is which fills space. It does not fill all space, but there is no limit to the places you may find it. You may travel in space for an unlimited time, and no matter how far you got, you would find material. The amount of it is infinite. Infinite means having no limits, no boundaries. Universal means everywhere, coming to every locality. Therefore, being infinite and everywhere, we use the term universe. If you subtract from the material universe any amount you wish to name, no matter how large, it would not diminish the total amount. That is what infinity means. So then why am I trying to define it? I can't. So instead of defining it, let's understand it. So with that, I went to Strauss, and he stated that it is important to remember that the chiropractic concept of universal intelligence is a principle of organization. So let's marvel at the organization of our universe. You can look at it from big to small, or small to big. Let's first look big to small. So taking the universe at large, what do you see? You see the sun, and then you see the Earth and all the other planets orbiting around it. You see the moon orbiting around the Earth. And then on the Earth, you see water, land, plants, animals, life, and the atoms that make up all of these behaving in an organized, coordinated manner. From that, now let's go small to big. So, if those atoms were not behaving as they were, we would not have the sun, we would not have the moon, and we would not have the Earth. And from there, we would not have the land, the ocean, life, and we would not have existence. Universal intelligence is in all matter, continuously giving to it all its properties and actions, thus maintaining it in existence. And that is the major premise. So in the end, I may not have been able to find a finite link between universal intelligence and science, but it's what I think has actually made it more important in understanding the combination of philosophy and science, as they are one and the same, and they cannot be separated. So however you feel best to understand the major premise, I challenge you, take the time and study it, because it is the basis of our work, and most importantly, it is the basis of life. Understanding universal intelligence and understanding the major premise means you get the big idea and all else follows.